John 8:42 to 47.
42
To 47.
Jesus said to them, "If God were your Father, you would love me, for I proceeded forth and came from God. Nor have I come of myself, but he sent me. Why do you not understand my speech? Because you are not able to listen to my word. You are of your father, the devil, and the desires of your father you want to do. He was a murderer from the beginning, and he does not stand in the truth, because there is no truth in him. When he speaks a lie, he speaks from his own resources, for he is a liar and the father of it. But because I tell the truth, you do not believe me. Which of you convicts me of sin? And if I tell the truth, why do you not believe me? He who is of God hears God's words. Therefore you do not hear, because you are not of God."
Okay, in one part in the NIV version, it says when he lies, he speaks his native language. I love that. Okay? Because that's his native language, is to deceive. To deceive you. There's nothing else he speaks. Okay? Now notice, he who is in relation to Jesus hears his voice. If he's not in relation to Jesus, he doesn't recognize the voice. Okay? You can only recognize the voice. I know people call on the phone all the time. And sometimes they start right off talking, and they make the assumption that I know who they are. And I'm always telling people, please, I'm sorry, I don't want to be rude, and it may be you, but who am I speaking with? Because I may think I'm recognizing your voice, but I don't really know. Okay? Now, chances are, if my husband called up, I'd be able to say, because I'm in a relationship with him and I hear his voice every day, I wouldn't have this difficulty, right? So if I'm in relation to somebody, I hear their voice. I recognize their voice, okay? Relationship is key to hearing the voice of God. If I'm not in a relationship with God, or my relationship with God has gotten, such as that young man I bumped into the other day, then I'm not hearing the voice of God, okay? Relation is key to hearing the voice of God. When it comes to relationship, more is definitely better. Definitely better, okay? Now, I know Hollywood's got it that, one partner can live in the East Coast and the other partner can live on the West Coast, and maybe they bump into each other, I don't know, they pay money. If they're rich, they maybe come across once a month and spend some time to each other, and they call that a marriage, okay? And unfortunately and sadly, many military families experience the same thing when one goes off and he's going to be gone for 1 year, for 2 years. Or, as in recently, I spoke with a friend whose husband is going to be, or actually she was telling me about a friend, whose husband is going to accepted a job that involves him being in Germany for a year. And they have this little 2-year-old that just had. So, from 2 to 3 in the life of his child, he's going to be totally absent. Okay? And, families and people make all sorts of decisions like this. And, our culture seems to think, well, this is okay. But the truth is that this is very destructive, okay? Even when it's a necessary thing for a military family. A way should be found to overcome lengthy separations of that sort, okay? Because I can guarantee you, many, if not most of those marriages will end, okay? Because if you're spending huge amounts of time apart from the beloved, the relationship is going to deteriorate. And the same thing is true about our relationship with the Lord, okay? If I am not spending time with him, then I am going to suffer the consequences of that. 1 John 3:19 to 20. Did I get that to somebody?
That's how we know that we hold to the truth. And that's how we put our hearts at rest, knowing that God is watching. Our hearts may judge us, but God is greater than our hearts. He knows everything.
And you read the NIV version, right?
I read the NIV version.
Which sounds different than my NIV version. But the part there, this is how we know we belong to the truth, okay? And how we set our, note that, hearts at rest. My version says, in his presence, okay? A beautiful thing. Hearts, Valentine's Day, hearts at rest. Not anxious, not worried, not in turmoil, at rest. Because they're in that right relationship where the whisper of the beloved is picked up right away. We're in that close relationship. Versus, I think the other part of that, our hearts condemn us. Is that something you read? You read 19 and 20? Oh, that's 21 that said that? Okay, then read on to verse 21.
Dear friends, if our hearts do not judge us, we can be bold with God. Excuse me. That's 21.
That's where that ends.
22 says, He will give us anything we ask. That's because we obey His commands.
Okay, so our hearts are at rest in His presence versus our hearts condemning us. The opposite thing, okay? Speaking of the consistency between my stated faith, okay, and my relation with Jesus and my actions, okay? So, I may know Jesus and be in a relationship with Him, or I may know about Jesus, and you can confess and say, I believe in Jesus Christ, but having a relationship with Jesus, okay, is what we need, right? Yes, we confess Jesus, but the very next step after confessing Jesus has to be entering into a relationship with Him, because I will not long be confessing Jesus if I've not entered into a relationship with Jesus. No way.
Verse 24 says, those who obey His commands remain joined to Him, and He remains joined to them. I had a flash about, what do they call it? Conjoined twins. I saw a movie about these two ladies who were joined at the hip and stuff, and it's like, wow, that's the way we're supposed to be with God. And if you tried to separate them, they would die, because of the shared organs and so forth. So you need to be a conjoined twin.
Conjoined twins.
Jesus.
Gemini. Now, confidence with God has to do with this close relationship with Him, where our hearts are at rest in His presence. Okay, isn't that a nice image to have, a beautiful image to have? Don't you want to live like that, with a sense of rest in His presence? It's probably true that I am I'm very close to my family, but at this point, within my marriage, my relationship with my husband, I am most at rest when I'm with him. My personality, my comfort is greatest when I'm with him, because that's the love bond, that's that close relationship, that confidence that we have in the presence of that person. Okay? I remember years ago, and I don't know if this was a song that came into your Christian, I've got confidence the Lord is going to see me through, no matter what the world may do, my Lord is going to see me through. That might have been some New York thing, who knows, because that's where it's from. Okay, well, it describes that kind of, I've got confidence. I am living my life in confidence and total security about where things are going. Now, what causes me to be dull or insensitive so I can no longer know the voice of God? Did I give somebody Hebrews 3, 8 to 13?
Listen to His voice today. If you hear it, don't be stubborn. If you were stubborn when you opposed me, you did that when you were put to the test in the desert. There your people of long ago put me to the test. For 40 years they saw what I did. That is why I was angry with them. I said, their hearts are always going down the wrong path. They have not known my ways, so in my anger I took an oath. I said, they will never enjoy the rest I planned for them.
Okay, there's that word rest again, that they don't get to enjoy the rest because they've become dull and insensitive to the voice of God, okay? So it's unbelief, sin, deceit, rebellion, the things that are going to stop me from hearing the voice of God. Okay, now, those things become barriers. In one version, it used the word obtuse, and I like to think, you know what an obtuse angle is, right? An acute, this is an acute angle, right? This is an obtuse angle, okay? When we become obtuse, dull, and sensitive, it's because if this over here is God and this is me, who's pulling away? Further and further. And that deceit, rebellion, sin, that's the barrier in between that makes it hard for me to hear. That barrier is becoming fatter and fatter and fatter. So I'm still kind of Gemini, I'm still kind of the conjoined twin over here. God hasn't moved away, okay? But I keep letting things interfere with my receptivity to him. I become obtuse to him. I'm not able to hear because I've allowed all these things. Now, let me tell you something. Some of those things that can get in the middle, okay, might not seem at first like such a big deal or such big things. They may not be. They may be things that are in our home. They may not be things. They may be people. They may be experiences. Whatever those things in the widest sense are, okay, anything that's being allowed to get in there in between that's causing me to go through another layer and another layer and another layer and another layer, that barrier's fatter and fatter so that, it's getting duller and duller and duller and duller. And messages that I would have picked up like that from God, suddenly I can't respond to those quick messages from God because I've just allowed this. So my hearing is becoming impaired and I can't hear the voice of God. Okay? I've become far from him. And I was just thinking of another song with that. You remember way back in the early 70s? Surely you all know this, Jesus Christ Superstar. Now, I'm not saying I agree with the whole theology of that musical, okay? But I love the song Day by Day. Remember that? To see you more
Clearly.
to follow you more nearly, to love you more
Dearly.
Day by day.
That was a great song.
That was a good song.
Yeah.
Day by day. These things I pray to see you more clearly. Just a little clearer today. A little clearer. Maybe in a situation where it goes, oh, there it is. Staring me in the face. Clear as can be. Because I saw him clearer. Okay? Nearer. Loving more dearly. Okay? That's what we want to do. We don't want these things that keep us moving further away to be allowed in there. Now, note back in John 15:10.
John 15:10. When you obey my commandments, you remain in my love, just as I obey my Father's commandments, and I remain in his love.
Okay, so he's talking about his love relationship with the Father. And he's saying, my love relationship with the Father is that I do what to him? Jesus says, I obey him. He sent me, and when he kept saying, I sent me, what he was trying to tell you was, I came on his mission, and whatever he says is what I do. That's what Jesus was saying. Okay? And now what's he saying about us? He's saying the same thing to us. He's saying, if you love me, you have to obey me. Obedience and love are like this. Inseparable. Okay? Can't say I love him if I'm not obeying him. And the way I show him I love him is I obey him. It's two sides of the same coin. You can't have one without the other. Not in our relationship with God. Jesus said it. I'm obedient unto death to my Father. I'm not going to let anything get in the way of my obedience. Okay? And even in that garden when he is pleading with God and trying to figure, trying to put it all together, that final crying in the Garden of Gethsemane. Okay? But not my will. Your will. Obedient, obedient, obedient. That was the sign of his love for his Father.